I had a coffee at 5 p.m., actually more like 5:30, and it is now 11 p.m., and I'm restless and cannot sleep. Yes, my acne is going to be joining us today. If you have a problem, take it up with HR. Say hello to HR. Not me showing you my trash. So Valentine's Day is coming up, in case you didn't know. The day that I'm recording this is on February 11th, about an hour away from becoming February 12th. And I'm single this year, again. But I want you to know, I do not have a problem with that. In fact, I am so happy that I am single right now, and I am so happy that I don't have time for a boyfriend right now. Girl, I don't know if it's this generation. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's a problem with men in general. Girl, I shit you not. The last Hinge date that I went on, the one and only Hinge date that I've been on, the guy that I was going on a date with had to show up via bus, not because of it, like he didn't have a car or anything. He had his driver's license suspended because he got a DUI. Mr. Darcy, a true modern day Mr. Darcy. Also, this bro was trying to tell me about coffee. I've been a barista for 4 years. That was a fun card to pull. I ordered a drip coffee and he ordered a cold brew, and he's like, yeah, a cold brew is when they use the blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I've been a barista for 4 years. I know what a cold brew is. I didn't put barista underneath my Hinge profile because I don't know, I didn't want to look like I worked minimum wage, which I did. Okay, so I guess the point of today's video, it's very late at night and we're gonna spill some tea. It's close to Valentine's Day and I'm feeling salty, so I'm going to be telling you guys all of the dating history that I've had anonymously. You know the drill. So obviously I'm not going to be naming any names. I'm trying to think of an anonymous name that I can use that I don't know anyone with that name. Alright, let me see really quick. Toxic white guy names. Let me see. Jake. Any biblical name? Please. Anyway. I know people named Jake. I know someone named Brandon. I know all these people. Man, I know a lot more people than I thought. Okay, the name is gonna be John. JD. I know a few Johns. If you are one of the Johns that I know, just know I am not talking about you. I'm going to be referring to them as JD, like JD number 1, JD number 2. You understand. Alright, so let's unwrap my dating history because I am never going to go on another date again because I'm exhausted. Should I start at the beginning or should I start more recently? I don't know. So John Doe number 1, my first boyfriend. Oh boy, this is a big one. So, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I'm being very vulnerable right now. I'm not wearing any makeup. I'm being myself. I've never actually had a boyfriend. I'm 22 years old and I've never had an official boyfriend before. I know. Bitch, I've tried. I have tried so many times. God. They've all been wrong. That's not my fault. They've just been wrong. But okay, first, the closest thing that I've had to an official boyfriend. So, oh boy, I've told so many of my coworkers about this. I don't know why I'm embarrassed to tell you. John Doe number 1, he was my older brother's best friend. Sorry. Is my older brother's best friend. Still to this day. And he was 5 years older than me. And I just want to get it out of the way. We never did anything illegal. This is not looking good for you. No, we just started like holding hands one day. And then after that, we were just like, so are we like a thing now? And we were like, yeah, I guess. And so we just talked on Snapchat every day. Dude, our Snapchat streak was for 3 years. Better than an engagement ring. Wait, no, hang on, am I stupid? Oh no, it wasn't that high. Okay, maybe it wasn't 3 years. It was in the 700s. It was in the 700s. We were really, really good friends. And that, more than anything, is what I loved about that relationship, is that we were best friends. My parents did not approve. I was 16 to age 19, okay? I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was homeschooled my whole life. I was isolated. I didn't know anyone else other than my brother's friends because I had no social life. So when I turned 19, I decided that I didn't want to be in that relationship anymore because it was just bad vibes. I was not happy anymore. The vibes were off. I don't know. It didn't feel good anymore, if that makes sense. I broke up with him over the phone. It was so cringe. Oh my god. It was just a bad decision all around. It was terrible. Yeah, so there's a lot of cringe and there's a lot of fault on both of our ends. I think there's a lot of things that could have gone differently, but he was my first kiss, so I will salute you for that, sir. Which he's still in my life, so I hope he doesn't watch this video, but if he is, what's up? You know who you are. Alright, John Doe number 2. I don't know how many I have. We'll figure it out. John Doe number... Oh, yeah. Ooh. I don't know. Should I list every guy that I've ever had a fling with? Or should I list every guy that I've pretty seriously dated? I'm going to do the fling because that's going to be more interesting. And the list is going to be a lot longer if I do it that way. John Doe number 2, John. I met him at the job that I was working at. He was 6 years older than me. He was literally like my older brother. My brother's drying his hair at 11:30 at night. Sorry if you can hear that. And when I mean he was literally like my older brother, I mean he acted exactly like my millennial older brother. Loved Star Wars, loved Marvel, loved 80s music, like everything that my older brother loved. So it was like having an older brother. Which I have older brothers, and my older brother he just doesn't live here anymore, so I miss him and I want to hang out with him. And so working with him was like working with my older brother. But I don't think... okay, so I started working at this job in September. Yeah, I started working in September. John and I worked together every shift, pretty much. We were pretty buddy-buddy. I had a lot of brothers growing up. I'm not like other girls just because I know about Star Wars and stuff. I don't really follow it that much anymore. I hate the MCU. And one of the most annoying things about him is he will defend the MCU until his dying breath. Like the current MCU. I don't love the current MCU. Movies before Endgame. God tier. Endgame, I saw it twice in theaters. Ooh, so good. I started working in September. And John, I noticed that he started looking at me differently, which, ladies, if you know, you know. He started looking at me differently, and I could tell. There was a yearning when he looked at me. And the thing about John is I didn't find him attractive. He just wasn't my type. And if you're watching this, John... you were never my type. I'm sorry. You were too old for me and you acted like my older brother and I always saw you as my older brother. I'm sorry. Communication between me and him was always horrible, even as friends. I've made a YouTube short about this, talking about this guy before. He treated me like the doggy shit that was in his backyard. But it was always joking, like we were in first grade. Like he was a bully, and that's how he treated me. He has never complimented me to my face, ever. He would be super rude, sometimes as a joke, but honestly, it didn't feel like that because I was fucking 19 years old and he was 26. But the thing about it is that he hid his feelings for me so well that I didn't catch on that he was interested in me until December. I know. And she literally said, I don't think, I know he likes you. What? And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Oh no, what if he comes to me? What if he talks to me? What am I gonna say? The bitch never talked to me. He never confessed his feelings for me, and to this day, he has never told me how he really feels about me. Except like one time last year, I confessed to him, I'm like, hey, communication has never been good between us, so I'm pretty sure it'll be better if we, like, stop talking to each other, basically. Not the right guy for me. Anyways, on to John Doe number 3. John Doe number 3 was just a really socially awkward guy who always had feelings for me, but he never told me. And I found out recently because he would text me every single month, at least once a month consistently for about 2 years. And one day I was just like, dude, you can't just appear in my life whenever you want. What's going on? And he's like, well, I always liked you and I never got a chance to tell you, and I know that I'm not the kind of guy that you want to be with or whatever, and I'm not asking you to be with me to be my girlfriend, but I'm asking you to be with me so we can have a fresh start together, us together. This was more recent. This was in December of this last year. It infuriates me. Men, if you're watching this, don't try to say that you have something with someone if communication has never been clear. Because that's what pissed me off with so many of these guys, is they would say, oh, what's best for us, or this is really doing something for our relationship. I'm like, you're taking ownership of me, but you won't even commit. You got mommy issues, I know, but I'm not here to fix them. What number are we on? 4? John Doe number 4. He was 15 years older than me, and he also worked at the place that John number 2 worked at. Okay. John Doe number 2, 3, and 4, and 5, the one that's coming up, they all worked in the same place with me at the same time. And I was 20. I'm 22 now, but I was 20. I was stupid. I entertained all of them at the same time, except for the one that I'm about to talk about. John Doe number 4. He was 15 years older than me. As a reference, he was as old as my manager was. And I never talked to him. I never entertained him. We talked about a few things, random things, and I said thank you once for washing the dishes, which I'm sure was probably enough for him. I don't know. He kept asking me out, but kind of like as friends, if that makes sense, where he's like, oh yeah, I could take us out to dinner, and I'm like, no thanks. And then he kept asking, and he was like, oh, I'll take you to dinner, come on, we'll have a good time. He, literally he said, just give me a chance, trust me, you'll have a good time. Anyway, he said that multiple times, and then after about 50 times, I was like, I should probably tell my manager. And one night, we had this giant thing that I was supposed to take downstairs, and it was really heavy, and it had food on it, and I dropped it. And I was so sleep deprived and devastated and stressed out because there was shit going on at my job, and I knew that I was going to get in trouble for it. So I just broke down and I started sobbing because, like, everything was falling apart. Everything was like, ah! And number 4 was there, and he saw me, and he felt so bad. And so the next day, he bought me a cake. And he wrote me a long letter just saying all of his feelings. I didn't even read it because I was uncomfortable. I was like, Mom, does this say anything inappropriate? And she's like, no, it's just respectful. And I'm like, okay. I didn't even eat the cake. My family ate the cake. And so I reported him asking me out to John Doe number 3, because he was kind of my manager. And and he said that if he doesn't do anything, then we can't report him. So I'm like, well, he's making me uncomfortable, but you're not going to report him anyway, so thanks. Yeah, so this guy, he was way older than me. He kept asking me out, and he kept giving me things that I didn't want. Hey guys, it's me. Did you miss me? I'm in my bed editing right now, and I'm sitting like a fucking Victorian child. I forgot to mention, but John Doe number 4 actually ended up... He offered to buy me a ticket to go with him to Greece. I am not lying. That is 100% the truth. He offered me multiple times. He said, hey, I'll buy you a ticket. Come to Greece with me. Let's do it. No questions asked. I was 20, and I'm like, I don't have my passport. I didn't have my passport at this time. And he kept saying, oh, tell me when you get your passport. I'll treat you so good. We'll go to Greece together. Anyway, back to the video. He gave me another cake at one point, and this other cake I ended up giving to John Doe number 5. I'm gonna get into him in a minute because he is a whole bag of shit. I ended up giving him the second cake that he gave me, because I didn't want it. And then I think John Doe number 4 was realizing how uncomfortable he was making me, so he kept apologizing. He's like, you must hate me. He had a bad self-image, I think, but he's like, you must hate me, and I'm sure you're never gonna forgive me, and I'll do whatever you want me to do to make you feel better. And I'm like, I'm barely 20 years old. I don't know what would you do? I mean, like, I don't know what I would do. I've already told my manager, and he's not doing anything about it, so I'm like, no, you don't have to, whatever, I don't care, just leave me alone. And then he literally said, I will quit right now if that's what you want me to do. And dumbass 20-year-old me was like, oh no, don't quit, it's fine. And in my mind I was like, my manager's gonna get mad at me, and she's gonna blame me if he decides to quit because of me. I don't know. And he ended up quitting that day. He literally quit because his feelings for me were too strong, and he couldn't stand seeing me upset, so he just decided to quit. Which, looking back, him taking himself out of this situation was probably the best idea. And then he kept showing up after he quit to try to talk to me, and I would have to hide in the back. And to this day, I still get scared when I see him because he is very persistent. Okay, we're moving to the big one. Big number 5. You know who you are. Fuck you. I almost want to say his real name, because this is how upset that I am. Ugh. But you know what? I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna call this guy Dick, because that's what he was. So Dick and I first met in 2023. I was still working at that place with John and John. So oh man, my life is such a mess. He was very weird. Like, he was creepy. I'm not going to lie, he was creepy. He was 2 years older than me, which was like incredible because I'm like, oh my god, I don't know anyone my age who works here. That's fantastic. You and I should hang out more. So where the job that I was working, he worked upstairs, I worked downstairs, and upstairs is where the break room was. So I would go to the break room every day to go on my lunch, and he would be there because he worked there, and I would just start talking to him because also I'm a very social person. I'm a social fucking butterfly. And everyone loves talking to me, and I make everyone feel good. So you're not special, Dick. He mentioned that he had been working there for a while, like a year or something. And I'm like, oh, how come I haven't seen you, you know? And he's like, oh, I've seen you a lot. He's like, I've seen you all the time, and I've said hello, but I guess you just don't remember me. And honestly, honest to God, I did not remember him. He had been working there for over a year, and I had never recognized or comprehended that he was working there. Because we worked on 2 different floors, obviously, and he never came downstairs. He kept bringing these little things up, these little traps, you know? And then he was like, oh yeah, I see you all the time. I know your name is Meadow. My name is Dick Shithead. Not his actual name, but it should have been. And I was like, oh, hey, Dick Shithead. And I was like, oh, hey, Dick Shithead. Yeah, why don't you come downstairs more and talk? You know, it's like, it's nice to meet someone my age. And he's like, oh yeah, maybe. Dick Shithead hardly ever came to my floor. Whatever. But the thing is, he kept setting traps. And I'm not going to call them anything else from what they are. They were traps. He kept setting traps. And I kept falling in them because I expected some reaction from him. I don't know what kind of manipulation this is, but I'm sure all beautiful girls, all my beautiful girlies out there, you've met someone like this. He sets a trap. You fall in the trap. And you're okay falling into the trap because you think that he's going to react in some way. But he doesn't. He does not. He never reacts. And if anything, he becomes more manipulative because of it. The only time we would talk to each other were these little off-glance meetings that we had if I were just so happened to be going to the 3rd floor or he was just so happened going to the 1st floor. And it was like that for a few weeks. And I was like, oh, you know, a buddy. I was still 20 and stupid and thought that I could have friends with guys without them wanting anything extra from me. And so I also thought he was cute. I thought he was attractive. Shit, dickhead face, whatever I called you a few minutes ago. I thought you were attractive. You smelled terrible. I'm going to be straight. But I was willing to look past that because I thought you were cute. But anyway, I'm not shaming people for not wanting to wear deodorant or shower. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But we kept hanging out every once in a while, and he kept wanting to talk to me. He kept yearning. And I thought, oh, wow, I think this guy likes me. And then he told me that he had a girlfriend. And so, like, the 2 or 3 weeks that we were, like, flirting with each other, I was like, oh, shit. I was like, oh, okay. I guess that's going out the door now. Everything that we had in common doesn't matter anymore. He has a girlfriend. Okay, cool. I don't really talk to guys who have girlfriends. That's kind of my rule. And he was one of the people who helped me really stick to that rule. So once I found out he had a girlfriend, I was like, okay, cool, we can be friends. And then I backed off. And we had each other's phone numbers at this point, and I didn't text him anything flirtatious before then. And I was like, you know, cool, buddies, that's it. Like I said, I was stupid. This man whore, this man hoe, he kept coming on to me. He kept coming on to me relentlessly. And it was always him. He wanted me first. And I believe that there was a point in time where he truly did want me. Either that or he was a really good liar, which I also can believe. I believe that at one point he wanted me, but I don't believe that he ever cared about me. We started hanging out more, and looking back, we were dating. That's what it was. We were dating. The reason why I see it as dating is because he put effort into making himself look the best way that he could to me. He kept coming on to me. We would talk for hours. Oh my God, we would talk for hours. I don't know, but it was more than a friendship. It really was. And I saw it as a friendship because I was 20. I didn't know any better. He was supportive of me, and he was curious about me. He was so curious about me. One of the first things he ever told me was, I remember the day I saw you. You were in the break room. You were reading The Interview with a Vampire. You had baby's breath in your hair. You were wearing 2 pigtails. You had a heart eyeliner right on your left eye. And I was hoping that you would look at me and that you would make that eye contact with me just for a little bit. And I'm like, what am I supposed to say to that? What the fuck do you expect me to say to that? Hey guys, it's me again. I was so sleepy, I forgot to tell you guys the majority of the things that this douchebag did. He had a girlfriend. he had a nickname for me with all of his coworkers. He called me Prado, which is Meadow in Spanish. He had a private group chat with his employees because he was the manager of his department, and his employees would text him whenever they saw me, telling him that I was in the building for the day. You remember earlier when I was telling you about John Doe number 4 and the second cake that he bought me? I ended up giving this cake to Dickhead, and I was like, do you want this cake? Because I really don't want it. And he was like, okay, I'll take it for my team. And I wrote a little note that said Meadow heart, because it was supposed to be just like a sweet thing that I was giving this extra cake to his department. And he told me once, and this is the weirdest thing that any man has ever done to me in my life, he told me that he slept with that note that I wrote for his team on his pillow at night. And I literally said, I'm like, what the hell do you want me to say to that? And he's like, I thought you would think it was romantic. And I'm like, bitch, what? And also, he would just talk about me all the time to his coworkers, and he would say a bunch of different things, and he would tell me, he's like, I talk about you with my coworkers all the time. You're all we talk about. And I'm like, oh, well, what do you talk about? And he's like, only good things. Which, like, hello? Are you talking about how my ass looks? Are you talking about how you want to hit me up from behind? What the fuck does that mean? You are being way too vague. I am barely even 20. This man has caused me so much psychological trauma. Anyway, back to the video. And I think the reason why it hurt so bad when he walked away was because he reminded me of my ex. I hate my past, I really do. But if you don't make mistakes, you can't learn. And I made so many mistakes. No, he reminded me of my ex, of John Doe number 1. And I told him this. I'm like, deadass, you remind me of my ex. And he's like, you know what? You remind me of my ex. And we were just sitting together in a park and we're like, damn, that's crazy. But I want you guys to know, there's things that I could have done differently. Yes. There's things that I wish ended differently. Yes. He walked out of my life like he didn't even know me. Like we had never met. We had never gone through anything together. And the worst part about it is that we were still working together. I would walk past his station. The bitch would duck whenever I walked by. How fucking pathetic is that? That is so pathetic. He clearly has issues. But things were never resolved. And I think that's what bothers me, and that's why I lay awake at night sometimes thinking about it, is I don't like going without resolving things. I'm the kind of person who needs to resolve things. It's like, whether you're in my life or whether you're not, just fucking talk through it so that I know where I am in life so that I can move on. But we never got to resolve anything. One day, he just stopped talking to me, and it was heartbreaking because I thought he was my friend. And I even texted him that. I'm like, I thought you were my friend. Yeah, it was a big mess. It was a big mess. And John, if you're watching right now, fuck you. No. If you're watching this right now, I just want you to know I am so happy. And that is my reward. I am so happy. You made me miserable. And I want you to know I've overcome. I've become the bigger person. And I am so happy you walked out of my life. It was the best decision that you ever could have done. Okay, next. I only have 2 more. Yeah. Okay, so after John Doe number 5, I would say the next most serious person after him was John Doe number 6. So John Doe number 6, my mom and my aunt went out for a drink one night, and there was this really cute bartender. His name was John Doe. And so they were telling him about me, and they were saying, you should meet my daughter. She's around your age. She has red hair. She wears red lipstick. She loves to read. She's beautiful. And this bartender was doing his job, and he's like, I can't take that information down right now. I'm at work. But he never forgot it. And so somehow I ended up finding his Instagram, and we followed each other for like a year. And about a year later, in October, he hit me up and he's like, hey, and you want to go to coffee? I'm like, yeah, I guess. I don't have anything else to do. So he was like, okay, let's meet for coffee. When are you available? I'm like, I'm working 2 jobs. I literally only have tomorrow morning. That's the rest of the week. That's all I have. And he's like, all right, well then let's meet tomorrow morning. I'm like, all right, well, if this is a date, you're going to get points if you bring flowers. He's like, sounds good to me. So he brought me flowers, which was very sweet. This guy, out of all of them, not so bad. I was really excited to date this guy because he and I had similar religious values. Just putting that out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, finally a guy who has similar values than me. That's amazing. And so we went on the date and we ended up being together for like 4 hours. I had to leave because I had to go to work, but I had a good time. And also Sunday Morning played. That was a nice touch. Sunday Morning came on, and if you don't know, Sunday Morning is my favorite song ever, and I have a tattoo of Sunday Morning on my ribcage. 4:05 is the runtime of Sunday Morning, and it was beautiful. Not the best date that I've ever been on, but it was a pretty good first date. And so I texted him, and I was like, okay, well, that was a good first date. Thank you. Do you want to go out again soon? And he's like, oh yeah, I have midterms. I don't know if this man actually had midterms. I don't know. We ended up talking pretty much every day for the rest of the week. And he texted me good morning with the kissy face emoji. The kissy face emoji. It's also worth saying, this guy was also not my type. He was 1 inch taller than I am. I am 5'7". He was 5'8". Not exactly my type as far as physical, but I'm willing to look past that because he and I have similar values, and we're working on personal growth, and we're working on becoming stronger as ourselves individually instead of being stronger only working on being in a relationship. I'm like, okay, well, I'm willing to look past that. You can't want everything. But then he texted me when he was drunk. Fellas, no matter how romantic it might be, if you text a girl that you are not dating while you're drunk, it is never going to be attractive. Never. I've had so many guys do that. Oh my god, it pisses me off, but I try not to let it get to me. It bothers me. It bothers me very much. And he texted me when he was drunk, and he said, hey, what do you think about doing the deed? Essentially. And I'm like, why are you asking me this? And he's like, well, I'm drunk right now, so. And I'm like, we can have a more mature conversation about this at a different time. I'm not going to talk to you about this while you're drunk. And he's like, understandable. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have said this, but I was like, I'm not looking for that right now, because I wasn't, and I'm not. And then he doesn't text me for 2 days. Yeah, I've seen a lot in my day. I've never seen a man lose interest in me more quickly than that. It was really eye-opening. It really was. To be fair, we only talked for 1 week. This all took place within the course of a week. God, it was the most anxiety-filled week of my life. I was letting a boy make me feel anxious. But John ended up texting me on Friday, and he's like, hey, what are you doing on Friday? And I'm like, I was waiting for him to text me for 2 days, because I'm like, this douchebag literally stopped texting me because he found out that I'm not looking for that. And he's like, what are you doing on Friday? And I'm like, Friday works. I have Friday evening off. I don't work both of my jobs. I just work one job in the morning. He's like, okay, how about we go to dinner on Friday? I'm like, yes. I'm like, yay. He hasn't texted me for 2 days, but he's asking me out again. Yay. And so I'm like, okay, I'm down. Let's do it. And then Friday came along. Worst day of my life. Oh my god, it was so bad at work. I was so pissed off. I was so upset about everything. And then he texted me in the middle of my shift and he's like, actually, you want to go to lunch? I was kind of expecting dinner, but okay. And he's like, well, I just know that you're getting off of work and you're probably going to be hungry. I don't know if that was true, but it was kind of thoughtful. So I was like, okay, sure, why not? And so we ended up going to lunch after. And actually my brother, he's a Chad, my older brother, he pulled a fairy godmother and got me an emergency outfit and my favorite perfume. And I changed real quick and then I ran over to wherever we were meeting. I was wearing a black turtleneck and it was 95 degrees. It was not a pretty situation. And so we ended up having lunch and I told him just things that I shouldn't have told him. Way too personal. I am so closed off now because of that situation. Afterwards, he paid for my lunch. But he ended up saying, hey, just so you know, I think it would be better if we can be friends. Because he said, I'm not holy enough for you and I'm looking to do some unholy things. I'm like, okay. And then I just walked away. And I texted him later and I'm like, hey, I just want you to know, you got my hopes up. Next time, if we do decide to be friends, don't get my hopes up. And then I blocked him because I didn't want anything to do with him after that. And I was so frustrated and I was so upset that I ran home. I got all my money from my savings, which was most of the money that I won when I went to Las Vegas. And I went and I bought a pair of Louboutin shoes. Because I wasn't going to be afraid to be tall. And I was going to be tall and beautiful and proud. Kiss my ass, John. Just kidding. He was a nice guy. I blocked him out of rage. He probably didn't deserve to be blocked, but also he lied about his age. So, alright, last John Doe. I don't even know what number we're on. John, I met on Hinge, and he's from another country. He lives really far away, and the time zone difference between us is like 16 hours. And we were talking back and forth because we also had similar views, except he had a lot more strict rules. Like, he didn't drink, which that's fine if you don't drink. I don't mind. But I do drink. I like to have fun. And also, he hated the fact that I had tattoos, which he's like, you're so pretty, except for your tattoos. So he and I also talked for about a week, and he just wasn't the right fit for me at all. And it just didn't end up working out because we were too different. So those are all of the Johns that have been in my life. I don't even know why I'm making this video right now. It is so late. I thought it would be entertaining to unload my dating history. It's all completely private. If the Johns are watching this, it's because they sought it out and they looked for it, not because I have anything to do with them in my life, because none of these people are in my life right now. Except for John number 1 and the last John follows me on Instagram, but that's besides the point. No, none of the other Johns are in my life, so if you like this stupid video, I would really appreciate it if you gave me a like and if you subscribed, because it's very late at night and I can't sleep. And your subscribing will help me sleep. If you are single this Valentine's Day, in a relationship, anything in between, I hope that you have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and I'm sending you my love. I'm going to be sitting at home on the couch with a bag of potato chips watching a rom-com, probably something featuring Patrick Dempsey in it. But yeah, that is all for me from today. I love you, I love you, I love you. You are my best friend. Bye.